Thank you for stopping by Ballistic Barbecue. On today's video, I'm going to be doing a beautiful 15-pound American Wagyu brisket, hot and fast. Let's get going. Okay, and here is the real star of today's show. Again, a gorgeous 15-pound American Wagyu brisket. This brisket was sent to me by a company called the Wagyu Shop, and I've actually tried their product a few years ago, some steaks, and at that time they were pretty much dealing exclusively with high-end restaurants selling high-end steaks. And at that time they were kind of exploring the consumer market, and this is where we are now. They have a line of Japanese beefs from Japan, and then also American Wagyu, and that's what this is. This thing is gorgeous. One thing I noticed immediately when I took it out the cryovac is just how tender this thing already is, and also how thick it is. I mean, the flat on this thing is just amazing. I mean, just look at this. The fat too, the fat's very soft. I'm going to kick this off with just some really light trimming, and then we'll get to seasoning it. Basically, all I'm going to do is there's a few little remnants of silver skin here, and I'm going to take off some of the fat that will not render. And the fat cap, which is, look at that, very even fat cap, I'm pretty much going to leave that intact, but again, just remove some of the bulky fat that, again, I know will not render out. So I'm going to get that started, and we'll come back in a few seconds here. So this is actually going to be my very first hot and fast brisket cook. A while back I did a project with Harry Sue over at his house, and I learned a great deal about these hot and fast brisket cooks. So I'm going to be using his technique, and I'm also going to be using his rub. I'm just going to go very lightly rub-wise on the fat cap part. Again, there's not going to be a whole lot of penetration, but I do like the way the rub and the rendered fat mixed together in the foil. I think it just adds another element. So for the fat cap, I'm going to use a little bit of Harry Sue's all-purpose rub. Again, just going light. And this is pretty moist, so I decided not to use a binder slather. All right, let's get this flipped over. On the muscle side, on the side opposite of the fat cap, I'm going to start out with Harry Sue's Moola rub. This is beef rub. Then we're going to top it off with some of that all-purpose rub. The one thing I really like about Harry Sue's style is he's a bit of a maverick, and I mean that as a compliment. A lot of the ingredients he uses are not what you'd find in your average rub. He puts a lot of thought into it as far as like umami and ingredients that help build a nice smoke ring, and so I really respect that. We're going to let this kind of sweat through now. We're actually going to be cooking this on the Primo Oval XL, and I've got that thing cranked up to 400 degrees. I'll meet you guys outside. As I mentioned, I'm using the Primo Oval XL on this cook. I have cranked up to 400 degrees, and I'm using hickory with a little bit of pecan wood. Smoke's smelling really good. This is going to be a great cook. So again, I'm using Harry Sue's technique, and one thing he does is he puts some lumps of wood on the grate. So we kind of form a dome, I guess, with the meat. And the logic is now I won't have any puddles of juice here as it starts to render and cook down. And we are cooking. The only thing I'm going to do at this point is check it periodically to see if that surface is getting a little dry. If it is, I'm going to spray it with a 1-to-1 mixture of Jack Daniels and water. This is actually left over from that prime rib I did yesterday, and it was pretty amazing. So I have it left over, I might as well use it. See you guys in a bit. We've been cooking for about 30 minutes now, and I think it's probably going to need a spritz. Yeah, just a little bit dry, not too bad. So I'll give it another 30 minutes and I'll check it again. If it needs some spritzing, I'll give it a spritz. Okay, we are right under 3 hours and I just checked this thing and it is ready to come off. So you can see how the bark is set now, it's not coming off. You can also see how it's all swollen up, almost like a tri-tip does. And this is a characteristic of a hot and fast brisket. Something that Harry and Cosmo both told me about. All right, and I am going to wrap this in butcher paper. All right, we'll get it back on the cooker. So what I'm going to do now is start cranking that heat down, turn the dampers down, and I'm just going to let the brisket sit in there and cook as the temperature falls. And what I'm targeting is 275 degrees. At that point, I'm just going to cook it until it's tender, until it's done. So hopefully it won't be much longer. See you when it's done. All right, we are at 5.5 hours and this 15-pound brisket is done. Amazing. So basically I just went till it's probe tender and it's just going in like a knife through butter. So I'm happy about that. So what I did was, as soon as I was done wrapping it, I basically just shut the dampers down on this thing, threw the brisket on, and you guys know Primos or any ceramics, it was a slow ride down in temperature. And then once it got down towards the 275, which, I mean, this entire lower temperature cook took place almost in its entirety with just the valves completely shut down. But once I saw it was starting to peter out, I opened them up a little bit and I rode 275, 250 until now. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to take it in, let it rest for about an hour or so, and then we'll slice it up and check it out. See you inside. Brisket's all ready, and I'm ready to try this out. I think it's jiggling like Jello. That's some good looking brisket. So it does have a definite smoke ring, you can see there. It doesn't hurt that this was a killer brisket. Gosh, that American Wagyu brisket, look at that. Huh. Anyway, guys, so I will have a link to the Wagyu shop below. Check them out. I mean, they have everything from super high-end Japanese steaks to, you know, American Wagyu, tri-tips and everything. So I think it's definitely worth looking into. Harry Sue, you're the man. Thank you for helping me get through this. I appreciate that. See you on the next video, guys. Keep those suggestions coming in. By the way, I always get asked, this is Ballast Points made in San Diego. It's an IPA. Good stuff. Cheers.